In this video, we're going to talk all about routing. And what I mean by that is when we go to our application, say localhost or Catch of the Day or westmouse.com or anything, we want to render out the store picker component, right? Like if we open up our DevTools here and we look at, and then when you press visit store, it's going to change the URL here and render out the app component, which in turn has our fishes and our order and an inventory in it. And then third, when we go visit a page that does not exist, we're going to get this 404 or not found component rendered out. And that's all the routing that we have in our application. So to do this, we're using something called React Router. And the routing is actually not baked into React. You're going to find that if you're coming from Ember or Angular or any of these other frameworks that have a router built in, often with React, they defer that sort of functionality to an external component. And there's a number of different ones out there. And I'd say right now, the two most popular ones are React Router and another thing called Next.js. So I'm using React Router in here just because it's the easiest to get up and running with. And then there's also Next.js, which I'm going to be using in my advanced React course. So what we want to do now is go into our component. And remember I said how everything in React is a component? Even the router in React is a component. So let's go into our components and make a new component, and we'll call that router.js, so capital R. And at the top of that, we're going to need a couple things. First, we are going to import something called browser router. And these are all going to be from the React Router DOM package. The React Router DOM package is another variant of React Router that is specifically for using the push state in the browser, because React Router could also be used for native. So from that, we need browser router, we need root, and we need switch. And I'm going to explain what these all are. Then inside of here, we need to make a router component, and we're going to use a stateless functional component, just like we did learned about in the last video. And from that, we are going to return the browser router tag. And inside of that, we need a switch tag. And I'll explain what these are in just a second. And inside of that, we are going to have all of our routes. So here's how it's going to look. First one is going to be a route. And the way the switch tag works is that it's going to try the first route. If it doesn't match it, it's going to try the second route. And if not, it's going to fall back to that not found route. So first one is going to be route, and the route will take a number of different props. And the first one is going to be exact. And this is because our first route is going to be exactly on the / on the home page. And then the second route is going to be /store / anything. And then the third route is sort of going to be a catch-all for anything that doesn't make its way in. So we'll say exactly the path of /. And then this is kind of neat. You tell it what component to render out. So when the path exactly matches /, we want to render out the component, what? The store picker, right? So of course, we'll have to go and import store picker from, and it's just a sibling. So store picker, because we're in the same folder that we have. And let's try that out so far. So give it a save. We'll go back to our Catch of the Day app. Now we have to render out this router to our mounting point. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to actually see it working. So where was that done? Well, it was done in our main file, which is index.js. And you see here how we were importing store picker and importing the app. And we were just manually changing it to store picker. So we'll change it back and it will swap it out for us. However, now we're actually going to import our router. So import router from our router component. And then we're simply just going to render out the router tag. So give it a save. So render out our router tag. We can get rid of the store picker in the app component. Why? Because they're not used in this file. They're going to be indirectly used inside of our router.js file. So get rid of that, give it a save. Now we got some errors. React must be in scope when using JSX. So it's a bit of an interesting one. We don't actually call upon React anywhere here, but because we are using JSX, we need to import React from React. And that should fix that error for us. Good. Oh, we got another one. Export default was not found. And here we forgot to export default. Remember how I told you I always forget to do that? Make sure you do that. Default router. the errors in React are pretty good. There we go. So when the route is exactly / use the component store picker. And then what we can do is we can give ourselves another route tag where if the path is equal to, and this is kind of neat, / store / anything, and we're going to call it a store ID. And that's going to be sort of a catch-all for anything / any sort of store name. That way, when I create a new store called Wes, I'm going to be able to load that no problem. And when that is the case, we're going to render out the component. And which one is that? It's going to be our app component. So we'll go up here, import the app component, and we'll go back to our app. Now, this doesn't work yet, but if I were to go to / store /123, it's going to render out the app component. And when I go back to the home page, it'll render out the store picker. And when I go to anything, it doesn't render out anything. And that's where we need to do the last route. So we'll just say route. We're going to do sort of a catch-all. And the way that we do that is just leave off the path. And when that happens, we're going to render out a not found component, which we still have yet to make. So in this case, has not found the not found component. So we'll make one real quick and we'll call it not found.js, import React from React, export, or we'll make it first. Const not found is equal to, and we're just going to return a div. Inside of that, it's going to say not found. And again, that doesn't need to be a full component. So we're just using a stateless functional component that should have a capital N on there. And then we'll export default not found. Go back here and into our router. And we need to import the not found component as well, because we're supplying it to the router right here. So we'll say not found. Good. I think that is it. Not found. We go back to our home page. We got it. And / store / whatever. It's rendering out the app component. Good. So that is allowing us to switch between the components. One thing now is that when you go to your React DevTools, you are going to see your router and then the browser router, and then we have a router, and then we have a switch, and then we have a route, and then we have our app component that is being shown. So it's going to be a lot more complicated inside of here. So what I like to do is if you need to find your app component real quick, you just do a quick search for it in this little box, and it will filter it down to our actual app. One other kind of cool thing is if you're on / store /234, it provides us with some props, which is some information about where you are. So this.props.match. And some information is exact, the path, the URL, but the params is kind of the cool thing, because that route that we did here, which is / store ID, that is now being filled via a params, and it's pulling it from the URL. So we don't have to do anything like window.location.split. It just gives it all directly to us. So that is the very basics of routing. We're going to look at how we can actually change pages without refreshing the page in a future video.